Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. We have got a lot going on, a lot to talk about in the Big Ten. Boy, oh boy, round 4, the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament were crazy. They were huge. Nebraska got off to a big lead, but they couldn't contain Terrence Shannon Jr. Purdue thought they had it locked up, but Wisconsin came back and they beat Purdue in that game, took it to overtime. Chucky Hepburn, the hero, the man of them all, who came in there and took down the Boilermakers. I got Java Nick. I got Scary Alvarez here to talk with us about it. Java Nick, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing, JR?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. I'm sure you're very happy with your win, and we'll get to it. Don't worry. Scary, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing great. Going about 26,000 feet on my G7 right now. Heading off towards Ibiza. I'm not going to be at the Big Ten Championship tomorrow. I'm going to be in Ibiza at a Kelvin Harris show. But let's be honest here. You'd make the same choice.
Oh yeah. Hey, it's a great time to be a fan of either of these fan bases. If there's any Boilermakers, if there are any Nebraska Cornhuskers out there, we are probably going to be a little biased tonight, and that's okay. It's no big deal. But hey, great games by everybody. Great fight from everyone tonight. I mean, this is the Big Ten. It's a lot of fun to just see the games and see everybody fight and have a great time. So,
JR, hold on. I'm gonna stop you. The ref just called another foul on Wisconsin. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. Okay, we're good now.
Yeah, last night they were still calling fouls on Ohio State against Illinois too after the game was over. So, so I lived that life. Just kidding, Nick.
I'll let that slide, JR.
Yeah. All right, we have Fisherman here. Fisherman is one of our Ohio State fans. Your thoughts on the Diebler hire? Did he officially get hired? Yes. Okay, I just saw
he officially got hired, Diebler?
Yeah. Goodman just tweeted it out like 30 minutes ago as I was doing show prep. So,
wow, I like it. What do you think?
Sure. Let's start there. I'll give my thoughts. If you guys have any thoughts, feel free to chime in. We weren't scheduling to talk about this, but that's fine by me. I like Jake Diebler a lot. I really hope that it goes well. I'm not confident that it will go well. However, I also wasn't really confident Dusty May would go well either. So at the end of the day, I think that this is going to keep the players around. I don't see anybody transferring. If anybody does, it's just going to be like maybe one or two, but I don't think it's going to be like Akpara or Thornton because those guys have really good relationships with Diebler. So while I do have my concerns about, running a program and kind of off-season stuff and, all the NIL and everything else that goes around the head coaching job today, I am very excited that he has such good relationships with the players and that, I think that he'll keep the guys around and we had 4 sophomores starting this season. He should keep all those guys around and hopefully guys like Devin Royal and stuff like that as well. So, Nick, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. You just learned about it. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a great hire. I was very impressed with Diebler. I was very impressed with Ohio State. They gave us a hell of a game last night. They probably should have won that game. Like you mentioned, we got some calls, a lot of free throws on the Illini side, not a lot of free throws on the OSU side. I think my biggest takeaway from what Diebler did is he had those kids believing. They showed a ton of heart, and hopefully it carries over. I don't know, maybe it's a little different animal when you get on the recruiting front, right? But I was impressed. Earlier in the year, Illinois went into Columbus and had no problem taking them down, and it was a much different story last night. So I'm happy for Diebler. I thought he gave a great post-game speech. I don't know if you guys talked about that, but he was saying how much that run meant to him and his family. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, happy for him.
What do you think, Scary?
Yeah, seems like a good dude, and I feel very fortunate that Wisconsin was able to get a win against him because not many other teams have been able to after he took over. It could go either way. I like the fact that the players like him. I mean, that speaks volumes about what it's like in that locker room where none of us are. And as you hinted, this is a young team where I don't see a bunch of dudes going to the draft from this team right now. I think if he keeps this core together, Ohio State is a title contender next year. I believe that. And assuming that the coaching stays at the same level. you're never going to know how he runs a program. You're never going to know how he does the NIL, how the recruiting stuff goes. You're not going to know until you find out. I mean, we had not a similar situation, but kind of evocative with Rodney Terry down in Texas last year. Obviously, the circumstances were different when Chris Beard was let go, but Rodney took over, took them on a magical ride. Of course, it ended in the Elite Eight to Miami, and Texas. The players liked him. He was popular in the locker room, and they made that decision. Now this year, a lot of the fan base, correctly or not, are saying, "Oops, maybe that was a mistake. We're not sure if he's the right guy." But in that moment, he was the right guy, and it would have been very hard not to hire him. I agree with the same thing is happening here with Diebler, and I wish him all the best. Yeah, good family, great basketball family, and I think he has what it takes to be an X and O guy on a successful Big Ten team.
I think he does too. I think that this season he was loose, like he didn't feel the pressure that maybe Chris Holtmann was feeling, where it's like, oh, well, I got to play this guy. I promised this guy this and doing this. And, well, I'm coaching for my job here, so I can't play the freshmen, stuff like that. And, that was one of the best things about Jake Diebler is that, like, he didn't care to play Tayson Chapman. He didn't care to play, Devin Royal as many minutes as he was, because guess what? If they lost all their games, Jake Diebler can still possibly be an assistant coach and will probably be an assistant coach somewhere else just because of his reputation. But yeah, I mean, I think that recruiting will stay put. I think that guys will stay put here. Obviously, losing Jamison Battle is going to be huge for next year, but you bring in enough guys and guys continue to develop, you should be able to correct that. So, thanks for bringing that up, Fisherman. I was doing my research before the show and I didn't even see that. So, which Fisherman says he knew even 2 hours ago. So. I need to get Fisherman's number so I can text him and figure out what he knows.
That's got to keep Thornton in Columbus, don't you think?
Thornton, the guys that I have heard that that Jake Diebler is closest with is like Bruce Thornton, Felix Okpara, Devin Royal. I don't know. I think Roddy Gale was one of them as well. But yeah, really, really close with guys like that should keep him around. So, all right, guys, good talk there. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and just get into the game really fast here. Nick, Illinois takes down. Oh no, this is the wrong one. Here we go. There we go. Illinois takes down Nebraska 98-87. Huge game for Terrence Shannon Jr. Nebraska looked like, they were going to run away with this a little bit in the first half, but Illinois, they just stuck around. They stuck around. And then about halfway through the second half, I don't know if anybody thought that Nebraska was going to win that game with the way Illinois was playing. Nebraska just missed a few shots here and there. And at the end of the day, if you don't keep up in the track meet with Illinois, you're going to fall behind really fast. So, Nick, just your thoughts from the game. I mean, were you satisfied with it? Are you looking the future is bright? What are your thoughts?
JR, I'm very, very happy with how tonight went. I think the Java men were very nervous at halftime. They were very nervous. 18:37 left in this game. Nebraska's up 55-40, and Underwood calls that timeout. I think Coleman had just traveled, and I don't think they cut to the huddle, but I'm sure Brad had one of his his typical yelling at the players. So I don't know what he said during that timeout, but from 18:37 on to the rest of the game, Illinois outscores Nebraska 58-32 plus 26 the rest of the way. I think that was the best 18-minute stretch of the season. Maybe was the best 18-minute stretch of the last 3 years. Terrence Shannon. So if you ever listen to the Java men, we like to do a lot of pirate talk. We like drinking rum. We like drinking Java. Captain of the ship continues to be Terrence Shannon Jr. And he just, what can you say about tonight? He basically did everything. If it wasn't for what TJ did in the first half, I think to me that's almost more impressive to what he did in the second half, because he literally was the only player who was doing anything on the court for the Illini in the first half. And we go to the locker room, I think it was 51-40. Shannon probably had about half of those points, and nobody seemed like Hawkins, Quincy, Harmon's been invisible for about 3 weeks now.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on with those guys. Hawkins, it seems like he's regressing a little bit with the pump faking. We're not happy when Coleman pump fakes. 1 of 7 from 3, but the one was the biggest of the day. So that was awesome to see. I think that's huge. Not to scary, but I think that was big for tomorrow to see Coleman knock that one down because he is a great shooter, especially when he's not hesitating. Quincy saw one go down at the end of the game too. I think TJ just finally got some help in the defense. The biggest thing that Shannon did wasn't the 40 that he scored. I mean, you guys, I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts, but Shannon was running around the court with Tominaga all game. It was for him to play the defense that he did and then still do what he did on the offensive end. I don't know if I've seen a better performance from an Illini since maybe Io had a couple, but that was it truly was an unbelievable performance. Very happy. I was impressed with Nebraska. Those guys, they're a great team. I think they could definitely make some noise in March. Just want to highlight, I think I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this as well. I think Ohio State and Nebraska were the two hottest teams in the Big Ten, and Illinois, before that last game of the year, we go into Iowa City, we burst Iowa City's bubble, or we burst Iowa's bubble in Iowa City. Then we go ahead and, sorry, JR, I'm hoping OSU gets in, but could have burst their bubble there. They should get in over Northwestern. That's another conversation. And then we take down Nebraska, who's arguably maybe even hotter than Ohio State. So very happy with tonight's performance.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the tournament, Ohio State and Nebraska were two of the hottest teams in the conference, there for a while, and Scary can tell us more about this than anybody else. Wisconsin was the hottest team in the conference. I mean, future 1 seed possibly, and then just kind of went on that downward stretch. But, I mean, this Wisconsin team is playing like, they were playing earlier in the season. We'll talk about them in a minute, but just in this game, like Nebraska had the hot first half and there didn't look like there was anything that Illinois was going to be able to do to stop them, but just, stuck with them, played good, solid defense. And when they had a chance, I think it was 68-70 and they went on like a 7 or 8 point run, and that was just kind of the difference maker. About 10 minutes left in the second half. So crazy game. Terrence Shannon Jr. obviously was a huge part of it on both sides of the ball. I don't think he gets enough credit for his defense, especially in this one against Tominaga. But Scary, your thoughts on the game overall?
Yeah, and Terrence Shannon Jr. definitely needs to focus on his defense. But yeah, so I agree. If you're a Wisconsin fan watching Illinois play Nebraska, I mean, maybe there's part of you that's like, well, Nebraska's not obviously quite the team that Illinois is, and maybe that's who we want to see. But then the other part of you that wants the challenge, it kind of welcomes playing Illinois. And I don't want to say there's nothing to lose, because when a title is on the line, it's something that you'll have forever. I was, Big Ten tournament champion. That's something that, you raise a banner for that stuff. I mean, that's something that goes on your guards Wikipedia. So the fighter guards can't even get in there and change that. But there would be a certain sweetness in Wisconsin matching up with and then beating an Illinois team that has just absolutely owned them the last few years. I mean, there've been a few tight games in there, but the fact is, it's been a one-sided series lately. And some of that is matchups, some of that is style of play, talent, things like that. But Wisconsin, for a team that can, with some frequency, beat a powerhouse like Purdue, as Wisconsin has done over the last 2-3 years periodically, at least splitting games with them. We haven't had that luck with Illinois. And so there is something exciting about getting another crack at Illinois after really playing one of our better games of the season in Madison about 10 days ago. And it just wasn't enough to beat Illinois. I mean, I don't know how, what your job, Nick, what your thoughts are on how that game went up in Madison, but I don't think a lot of Wisconsin fans finished that game and said, "Oh, we played terrible." We were like, "Damn, we brought it." Especially that was kind of in the tail end of the slump we were having. So that was a kind of a good bounce back performance by the Badgers, but it wasn't enough. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Wisconsin is incredibly banged up right now. I'm not sure if you could tell. I mean, I'm sure you both watched the game, but Blackwell, the freshman who started in place of Chucky Hepburn basically yesterday when Hepburn was out, he looks like he's walking on a leg and a half. I mean, it's just he's just gutting through it. Tyler Wall is injured. Hepburn sat out yesterday, played today. Looked great, obviously. So this is a really banged up team, and part of me is thinking, well, I got something kind of important coming up next week on Thursday and Friday. Maybe you rest a couple of these guys, even though it's an important thing to win the title. But my guess is everyone it's going to be all hands on deck for Illinois tomorrow. I don't think anyone's going to sit out. I think it's going to be these guys want to win a title, and they want to win it against probably the most dangerous team for March, in my opinion, in the Big Ten, which is Illinois. I think Purdue was the better team over the course of the season. Illinois is the more dangerous team. That's my read on them, and it would mean a lot to win that game.
Scary, that game in Madison. For what it's worth, I went on our podcast after the game and declared that was Illinois' best game of the season. Because Domask was just lights out that game. I'm curious to see how tomorrow goes, but the Domask Wall matchup is great. They played really good. I mean, they just when they get in these offensive rhythms, Brad has done an awesome job this year. They just seek out matchups, and it was like the second half today. It seems like they can't get stopped. JR, a couple more points from today's game I thought was very important. When Juwan Gary picked up the fourth foul, that seemed to just change the game because there was nobody else on Nebraska that could stop TJ, and it was just this is what Brad does though. They demoralize their opponents by just going to the same play every possession, and it was just ISO for Shannon, and he would either get to the hole or he'd get fouled, and that's something that we've been harping on. I think I know Shaps has been on a few shows. JR, he's part of what we call the firing squad, so he's not the biggest fan of Brad, but I think there's some improvements that we've been seeing. The biggest thing that has been changing for Brad recently, because this is year 7 for Brad, really year 6 if you take out COVID, because we would have made the tournament. But he's had a regular season Big Ten championship. He's had a Big Ten tournament championship, but he's never seen the second weekend in the tournament. I know Shaps declared when he came on last time that that's a successful season if we make it to the second weekend, and that's the 100% truth. So we'll see what happens. It's all about in-game adjustments for Brad. The last 4 games that we lost, there's a common denominator where he likes to go to Luke Goody at the end of games. And Luke Goody, he's a great complimentary piece. He's been struggling of late. I think he's a little banged up, but Goody's a guy that's got to play the last 10 minutes of the first half, and in the first 10 minutes of the second half, he can't be closing games. We like to say you got a Ferrari usually on the sidelines. You got Ty Rodgers, right? And what happens is Brad likes the experience of the 96 Camry and sticks with Goody over Ty, and that just can't happen because Ty Rodgers makes this team different.
I mean, Ty Rodgers is possibly your best rebounder on this team. I mean, every time I look at the box score, it's like he's got over 10 rebounds almost every game.
And he's probably the shortest in the
lineup.
I
think he's the shortest in the lineup. He's 6'6". I mean, but that's also Illinois' ball, right? I mean, they're going to have more length than you, and they're going to be more athletic than you. And at the end of the day, I felt like that was the difference in this game. Yes, Luke Goody hit those threes, and that was huge. However, like Illinois just has more length and they are more athletic. I mean, no disrespect to Sam Hoiberg. I really like Sam Hoiberg, but Sam Hoiberg has no business being on the same floor as these Illinois players.
The Alderman.
He is very energetic, and he's going to go after the ball every single time, and he's kind of like that glue guy. But at the end of the day, like there is nothing about Sam Hoiberg's game that did anything to the Illinois players that he was on. Plays good defense, that's fine. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like he is just outmatched physically, athletically, in basically every single way. And that, to me, that's a very big concern for Nebraska when they get into the tournament, because they should be able to beat some, 4, 5, 6 seeds and 2, maybe even a 2 or 3 seed. But when they go up against guys like UConn, Arizona, teams like that, UNC, Tennessee, I don't see a chance, because you're going to see like what you saw tonight with Illinois, where the length and the athleticism just takes over.
I'm glad you pointed out how good Goody played today too, JR, because he played awesome. And that's exactly what his role needs to be. I mean, he was hitting threes. The bank was open today, which was probably the biggest one of the day. And he had a couple huge rebounds too. But he just can't close games. You gotta bring back Q or Harmon to close it out instead of Goody.
Nick, we got Shaps in the chat. He's chiming in. Brad is improving. Played the Ferraris. Firing squad is standing down for now, right? Shaps for now.
JR, the best decision I made was telling you I was coming on instead of Shaps because we know the outcome would have been different.
Yeah, we know.
Am I picking up on a fire undercurrent in the Illini fan base?
So our group,
there we go.
Scary, to give you some context, we're very split. We're very split on what we call the PED. There's half of us that love Underwood, half of us that just he hasn't been successful in March. And the key argument to him not being successful in March, let's face it, he got us out of probably the darkest period maybe in Illini basketball history. But he's also, I think, the 6th or 7th highest paid coach. So with that comes expectations. So it's a very, very important March for Brad Underwood. But I am not on the squad at the moment. I'm a big Brad fan at the moment.
Slightly different, but not totally different from the Fire Guard movement in Madison. That I call it it's an illness, but I guess you know what side of it is that I'm on. But we'll obviously get into some of this momentarily. But yeah, I do. Boy, and you got it in your own group there, so that's like you got the outbreak in your own house.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's very polarizing.
Let's get to a couple more comments and then we'll move on to the Wisconsin game. Nick, Paul is a fan of you. This Nick guy 23 knows what he's talking about. There we go. So you got them. And then I love this comment. Illinois' defense showed up at halftime like Bobby Boucher. I think it's Boucher showed up at the Bourbon Bowl. So their mama was around and they played for their mama. I love that. Great. All right. Here we go. Purdue, Wisconsin, scary. I mean, dude, I'm sure you just had a whole mess of emotions going through you in this game. And I know that Wisconsin fans have had their criticisms of Chucky Hepburn after this game. I think most of those, for now, are put to rest after the way Chucky Hepburn was able to close out this game. It didn't seem like it mattered there at the end who they were going to put on him, but at the end of the day, like, I heard some people saying maybe Braden Smith is still injured and things. I don't want to take anything away from Wisconsin and what they did in this game. Wisconsin, they played well. They stuck with it. They had a multitude of guys who fouled out. We were talking about that before we came on, where it was just like any body you threw in there, and Gilmore came in and he was able to hit that big shot there at the end. And I mean, just so many storylines and players to look at. So I'll throw it to you, Scary. You obviously can take it all, but just what were your thoughts overall with this game and how Wisconsin played?
Yeah, and really quick, just a note on Chucky Hepburn. For those who don't know a lot about the Badger team, he has been one of our leading scorers the first 2 years of his career. He was asked to, I want to take a step back offensively, but to transition his game into a little bit more of a distributor, like the classic, good defender, assists, that sort of thing, and take fewer shots. And that's exactly what he did this year. So the real knowledgeable Wisconsin fans know that Chucky's had a really good year. He made the All Big Ten defensive team. His percentages and things like that were a little down, but that comes with not having volume. You shoot 1 or 2 threes a game, you never know how it's going to go. So him bursting out and scoring 20 points in this game and doing things offensively that he did, that looked very familiar to Wisconsin fans because that's what he did the first 2 years of his career. That's a Chucky Hepburn we know. So that's all good. I mean, it's just I think it's where he'll give you what you need in any given game is where we are. The game generally, what a fantastic! I feel like I ran a marathon watching that game. Just the emotions you alluded to, the emotions of being, wanting your team so badly to win, having a healthy degree of hate for the opponent that you're going against, because I do, and a little bit of respect too. I mean, I think Painter's a fantastic coach. I mean, I don't want to go that we just hate them to hate them, but they're a big rival, kind of like Illinois is. Except we need to beat Illinois more often to have them be a true rival. But just watching how hard this team fought, and I know it's an easy cliche to try and blame referees, but I was getting things from people who are not Wisconsin fans in my DMs and getting tagged and stuff. Just Georgetown fans or Texas fans going, "What? Can you swear on the show? What the heck is going on in this game?"
Whatever you want.
And I know you're going to get that it's the style Purdue plays. There's going to, you got a big man, and they kind of protect him. We talked a little bit about on some of my stuff about how the Big Ten has a little halo around ED, and that halo disappears in the tournament, as it's going to disappear again this year. And it's going to be an interesting thing. They had 19 fouls or 19 free throws last year in that first round loss as a 1 seed. Just telling you, he's not going to get that special treatment. But look, at the end of the day, they had 32 free throws. We had 9. They had 27. We had 27 fouls. They had 16. We were playing 5-on-8. It's the reality of it, and with some guys who were hurt, and to get that victory in that context was the finest win of the year for this team, I think, by a wide margin in terms of the guts, the coaching. And it wasn't a perfect game. I mean, you all watched it, right? I mean, Nick, you watched. There were some terrible shots and some bad decision making and things like that. But at the end of the day, they played a really, really talented, well coached team, got it done at the end, and that was just a fantastic win for the Badgers, Greg Gard, and I think they're going in the right direction, assuming the health is okay. I know they have some injured players, Blackwell, Chucky, Wall. I mean, they're hurting a hurting unit, but they're playing some of their best basketball of the season heading towards the tournament, and that's exactly what you want to see. So I was really excited. And one thing I wanted to make sure, the analogy I was thinking is this was the win over Kentucky in 2015, and now Illinois is Duke in the championship, and we know that went. So we're hoping that at least you don't have Coach K. I'm not sure how effective Underwood is at talking to the refs. They've been doing all right so far this tournament. I think you all have certainly had the better of it against Nebraska today with the refs. But I just want a fairly called, tightly fought game tomorrow, and let the team that deserves to win. That's where I am. I think I can live with either result, frankly.
Yeah, my favorite stat to look at when it comes to the refs, which people know I don't talk about the refs all that much, because at the end of the day, everybody can talk about it, but I just try to focus on the actual game, which has become increasingly more difficult, I'll say, over the past couple weeks. But anyway, my favorite stat was that Nolan Winter played 8 minutes and fouled out with 5 fouls.
Yeah. Okay. And Winter's
that's what you do.
He's a freshman, but still,
he was a foul burner. He's a foul burner. You're not going to believe this. He came to Wisconsin as a recruit. He's a freshman, a true freshman, from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. I know that's just such a strange thing for Wisconsin to go up and basically, land one of those guys. But I actually had him on my pod earlier this year, and just a great kid. He's going to be a good one. I mean, he's getting quality minutes as a true freshman for the Wisconsin Badgers in a year they've been a top 25 team more than half the year. And who knows where it's going to go now. So it's fun to see him getting some meaningful run. I mean, yeah, he was a foul leader today. Let's be honest. I mean, he was in there to just stop Zach Edey from dunking. I mean, that's where we are. And some other kids like Marcus Ilver gave us some good minutes today. There were stretches of 5, 6, 7 games where Ilver might not have seen the court for 1 minute this season. So he looked very comfortable, frankly. And Hodges gave a few good minutes too. And Kamari McGee, who some say is kind of the linchpin of this team. He's the backup point guard, and he had an injury, lower body injury, they're officially calling it. I believe it was an ankle. And he missed basically that entire stretch where Wisconsin was bad in February. He was out. So the record with him is 17-5, and without him it was 2-8. And it's a 3-point a game score. So it's just sometimes it's that intangibles that the guy can bring to the game. So yeah, I just feel like this team is peaking at the right time, and if they stay healthy, who knows? But you talked, Nick, you talked a little bit about your fan base and the expectations for Underwood. And I alluded to the fact that I wouldn't say Gard is on the hot seat, but certainly fans have taken notice of, they missed the tournament last year, and this year had that big slump in February. So there's a lot of people ready to move on from this guy. And he's had an unequivocally successful tenure. I mean, it's a fact. 2 Big Ten titles in the last 5 years, perhaps tacking a third as a tournament title. 2 Sweet 16s early in his tenure, after some of Bo Ryan's best players had moved on to the NBA. It wasn't like he got Kaminsky and Decker back. He had to kind of mold his own team. He's been very successful, but he's been a divisive thing. So I think we've seen the last few days what Gard is capable of, and it's just personally nice to see a guy who works so hard and is so beloved by his players, have some success. And basically the bar people are setting is this reminded me again of Underwood is Sweet 16 is a successful year.
Yep.
Because Guard has not been in the Sweet 16 since 2017 when they beat Villanova as an 8 seed. And that's kind of where the expectations are now. A week ago or 2 weeks ago, when Wisconsin was in free fall, there are people that they're going to lose out. If we just win one game in March, that would be a win. And now we're kind of back to what can this team do? And I think we don't know. I think if they're healthy and they get the right matchups, they could make the Sweet 16. And who knows after that? Once you get in the Sweet 16, anything can happen. So we're excited. And no matter what happens tomorrow, I think we're going to be excited for whatever draw we get. We're hoping we're probably down to a 5 now, maybe even a 4. So it was a real successful week there in Minneapolis, and we're excited.
Yeah, your thoughts, Nick?
I'll take the bait. Scary. I'll take the bait. I think the 2 fouls in overtime, the one that was on Winter, I think it fouled him out on that rebound. That was terrible. I don't know what happened there. I think top 5 worst call in college basketball this season was when Edey ran over Wall, and they called Wall number 5.
I'm looking at it right now on my screen. It's my screensaver, to get me hyped up for the Calvin Harris concert. But yeah, that was bad. I Nick, I'm in dead agreement with you. And again, JR, you said this. I don't want to talk about the refs, but I think when I'm seeing people get, what, and I'm glad, and it's like we didn't lose and I'm talking about this. We won and I'm talking about the refs. I think that objectively says how bad it was. That I'm just shaking my head because it was just so egregiously horrible. And, watching the Badgers in the post game and stuff and Guard and stuff, they don't mention a word of it. And I love that. I just think they're, that Guard is such almost to a fault. He doesn't get on the refs, and he just gets out there and tells his guys to do it and swallows it. And but we're hoping for Nick. I'm not sure what you're hoping for tomorrow. I said this earlier. I want it to be a fairly called game. That's just keep it close. That's all I'm hoping for. And I don't want to see a situation where it's 27 fouls to 16, or we're getting 6 guys fouled out, and we're having to call up JV guys from the intramural teams during the game to feed minutes in the middle.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be close. I think we'll both be happy if we get out of there healthy. It's always nice to get the ring of it. I mean, at this point, right? Like you do the cost benefit analysis of if you're going to get tired, but you're playing the game regardless. So now you got to go all out to win it. You don't want an injury because you're playing a couple extra games.
Yeah. They're probably they're probably giving the winner a Friday game. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But
good point.
You'd like to believe it. Yeah. In Wisconsin's case, it'll unequivocally be in somewhere with a Sweet 16 or later round in Fresno or Anaheim, in Arizona's bracket. So whatever the tall, most athletic, streaky. Although in fairness, Arizona got run out of the gym by Oregon a couple of days ago or yesterday, so they're not playing great ball right now. But yeah, I agree. I think it should be a pretty fun game tomorrow, and just keep everyone healthy. And it would be a lot of fun to cut some nets down in Minneapolis. But the reality is, it's next Thursday and Friday that matter.
So, JR, my thoughts on the game. I think Chucky Hepburn versus Braden Smith. And it wasn't even a debate tonight. I thought after watching that game, you should pump your chest a little bit, JR, because I remember that Chucky's your guy. At one point, I think you declared him top point guard in the league.
I said he's a top 5 guard in the league, which nobody will agree with, and that's fine. Well, but I think he's a top 5 guard, not just point guard in the league.
I love Hepburn. I agree. I love him.
I love Hepburn.
I hope Braden's. Let me rephrase this. I think Braden Smith, that injury affected him, because if it didn't, he got destroyed tonight, and he was very exposed when Edey got into foul trouble. I thought he just not. I thought he did okay, but he wasn't an All-American. But I think the injury really impacted him more. So this was probably a blessing in disguise for Purdue. That he gets an extra day to get better for the tournament, because realistically, this game didn't matter for Purdue. They don't care about this, right? All they care about is getting revenge on last year. Chucky MVP tonight for sure, and then Klesmit. Wow, that was clutch, winning time.
Yeah, it's great. I agree. And one thing that y'all don't follow Wisconsin obviously as closely as I do. This has been a team that's won a lot of games fairly comfortably by like 7 or more points, but their record in games, close games, I believe that's defined as 5 points or less. It's not been great. I mean, last year's team actually had a better record. Last year's NIT team had a better record in 5 point or less games. So to see the clutch performance at the end of regulation and then again in overtime was very, very heartening to see. And this is potentially a very dangerous team because the ability to close games. If you can do that, you don't have that loss in Lincoln in overtime. You don't have that inexplicable loss in Indiana, and that some of these other losses they had tight closing was what separated this team from a top 2 Big Ten team and a 5th place Big Ten team. And if they can turn that switch, watch out.
Scary to do that against, real quick, JR, to do that against Purdue, because I think Purdue's the best closing team in the Big Ten. What they did in Champaign was, I mean, we walked out of that game after watching that game, and it's like you tip your cap. We were up 2 with 3 minutes left, and they lit us up. They were hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, and they've continuously done that all year to close games. So, I mean, that makes it even more impressive what Wisconsin did today.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, that was shocking. Anyone who would listen to me, I said Illinois is gonna beat Purdue, and I mean, I unequivocally picked Illinois to win that game, and I was very surprised yet not surprised, as you said, given Purdue's propensity to be a good closing team this year. But I was surprised overall that Purdue closed that game out.
All right, we got some comments here. We'll go to Dick first. Stop talking about refs. I get it, Dick. We had a short little piece there. Maybe it didn't.
Let me tell you something. Dick Stillwagon. I don't want to tell you have a great porn name, and I'm not. This is a family show, but brother, you are set, buddy. I don't know about the rest of the equipment, but you got the name. Good for you. How today too, buddy.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for that, Scary. We'll move on to Michael Hogg. I'm not sure about his name for pornography, but Michael's a great commenter here. We appreciate Michael
Hogg. Holy crap, we got a winning streak. And Michael, Chucky's a senior next year. So believe it or not, he's one of those Badgers like Brad Davison. He's only been around. This is only Chucky's 3rd year.
Right, Davison. Davison was there for like 8 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. He was only there for 5 years, and he was only like 21 years and like 8 months when he graduated. It's unbelievable. But everyone thought he's like 35. Like, who's that Iowa kid that was there forever? Bohannon. My God, he's like 60. He had to tuck his grandkids in after games. Hepburn's back next year. He'll be the starting point guard. Daniel Freitag, we have a really good 4-star point guard coming in from the Twin Cities who will, I think, get immediate playing time. I think Wisconsin's guard room is looking really good next season. And that's even assuming AJ Storr is not going to be there. If we have Storr back, and I know he plays small forward too, but I think Wisconsin's guard room is going to be great. But Hepburn, I think it's going to be Chucky run the show again next year as a captain.
I can't wait. And then also another one from Michael. I wish I could be on the panel sometime, JR. So Michael, what we're going to do in the off season, we are going to do a few call-in shows here and there. So now that we have a little bit more of an established following, I'm cool to do that. So when we do that, I'll make sure that and you can come call in and talk with me or if there's anybody else on the panel for those times. So appreciate that. All right, guys, let's move on to our final one here. This is just a preview of the game. So I'm sure nobody will be biased and pick their own team here to win the game or anything. But just a short little thing. Like, I am honestly curious to see what Wisconsin does here. Are they going to try to slow the pace down like Purdue did in their last game where everybody wanted to run? But you could even hear it on the TV broadcast of Matt Painter, slow it down. It's like he knew that if you let Illinois get out and run, if you get into a track meet with Illinois, you're not winning. Especially a team that is built the way Purdue is. I don't know if Wisconsin is built well enough to get into a track meet with them and win. They obviously can score. They were one of the top offenses earlier in the season, so certainly they can do that. But I am confident that Wisconsin can make this a good game, even possibly win. But I'm also confident that Illinois could just get out and run and really kind of pull away. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a coin flip to me here. I think both teams are very good. Both teams are really hot right now. I'm sorry. I have Illinois with Purdue's overall record there.
Can we keep that one, JR?
Yeah, right. I'm sure you were.
I was looking at that and I was like, holy shit, they're better. They're better than I thought they were.
Everybody.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's you know what? That's fine with me. Let's have them at 3.
Right. That just helps your resume there, Scary.
Yeah, fantastic. It's at worst it's a quad 1 loss, and it's at best it's you're beating an elite team. So there it is.
Well, here we'll just reference back. This is Illinois' real overall KenPom and net here, and then we'll go back to the nicely made graphic that I screwed up. So Nick, save me here since I screwed up the graphic. What are your thoughts on the game coming up tomorrow?
Great question, JR. I'm optimistic. Like Scary said, we've had guard's number. We've had Wisconsin's number. So for whatever reason, it seems like Michigan, Wisconsin, Northwestern, with the exception of a loss this year, we've just been able to consistently beat. But then we haven't beat Penn State in 4 games. So I don't know what it is in particular. I'm interested to see how Shannon starts the game tomorrow. I think he seemed a little winded. I think Brad gave him some rest in the second. I think with like 8 minutes left, which was big. But if you're guarding Tominaga all night, that's going to take a lot of energy. So I think that's a huge plus. I think Illinois definitely tonight's game, or I should say today's game, took a lot of effort from them. So. Which makes me a little nervous because, hopefully they recover this week because that's more important than tomorrow, the NCAA tournament. I think we'll still get the victory. I like the Damask matchup. He seems to have an edge with him. Scary, I'm curious to get your thoughts on Damask, Wisconsin not recruiting him. Or maybe you know the story better than me. But
yeah, I don't know the specifics other than there's a kid that wasn't the priority.
Yeah.
For Wisconsin for whatever reason, he's developed well and he's having great success at a different school, and he probably doesn't mind having a little extra juice when he plays Wisconsin. I mean that's okay, and I don't seems like a good kid, and he's really a very good player. But I don't think anyone in the Wisconsin locker room gives two craps about that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not worried about his story. No one cares. He's not in the team. What I would recommend is guarding him a little better this game. That seems to be that's probably the message from Greg Gard.
I think so. My thoughts from the first matchup in Madison was it seemed like Gard was content to have Wall go 1-on-1 with Damask, and I think Gard was very taken aback by how Damask was just able to basically do what he wanted with Wall. And it seemed like it was just like too late when the adjustment was made. So I'm curious to see what happens tomorrow because, you would think a guy like Wall, Wall, and not to take anything away from Wall, because I think he scored 20 in that game, and he kind of was doing the same thing on the other end of the court. But Damask also hit a couple of ridiculous shots in that game. But go ahead. Scary.
Wall isn't fully healthy. I'm telling you that. That's not some scouting report I'm going to have you funnel to your coach. They know. Yeah. He gutted it. And it's not making excuses. It's just the reality. He gutted it out today. Yeah. And if it would have been a game against Penn State in February or early, late January or something, he probably wouldn't have been playing. Same with Chucky. Yeah. So this is that's that time of year. It's March, and you got to swallow hard and put the icy hot on and get out there and play. But I would be very surprised if Damask lights them up tomorrow the way he did in Madison. I'll just say that. I had nothing to do with where he was recruited or not recruited. I think they'll make adjustments there. But Shannon, Shannon he's going to get his points. That's a fact. There's nothing we can do to totally shut that guy down. Now, you'd like to not have him get 40. That'd be great. But he's going to get his points. Can he stop the other guys? Can you do the things you need to do to keep them in check? I don't think it's going to be a slow-paced game. This is not going to be a 53-52 final. Illinois is going to impose their will to some extent with the pace, and Wisconsin is not that plodding Virginia. That perception that Wisconsin's this plodding team that, I know their pace isn't fast, but their adjusted offense is top 20 in the country. I mean, they can get stuff done. Their efficiency. So I think I like it in the 70s. I think it maybe in the 80s. I think it's going to be. I don't have a good prediction for this one. I just don't know how healthy the team is right now. But I think they're going to come out hard and fight. And I think Wisconsin has a puncher's chance, kind of like they did with Purdue today. And but I do think that Illinois is the absolute worst matchup in the entire Big Ten for Wisconsin, just the way they're composed.
Nick, Scary was talking about some injury concerns for the Badgers. Are there any injuries or anything like that that you're thinking about or that you know about or can see out there on the floor that maybe other fans wouldn't see from just seeing Illinois once or twice this year?
I would say relative to other teams, we're probably on the healthier side, which is good. We joked a little bit today that I think Brad said after the game that that Goody had something going on in his ankle, which, there's some internal drama going on in the Javamen that's the reason why Brad doesn't have Goody closing games, because he's a little banged up. But I like to think that he's making some in-game adjustments by bringing Ty and NQ back in the game to close it out. But yeah, I think JR, I think we're pretty healthy. TJ got a little banged up today on that drive, but the guy, he's a monster. He's going to the hole every play and bounces back up. So we've come to expect that out of TJ. And I just can't believe that he didn't run out of gas today. That shocked me, because what he did for I think he maybe played 35 minutes. What he did for 35 minutes was just amazing.
Who do you think they'll match up Terrence Shannon Jr. on Wisconsin?
To defend,
you got Hepburn, Wall.
I think either Hepburn or Store.
Store's what I'm thinking.
Scary. How you feeling about AJ down in the blue and orange next year?
Yeah, I don't think so. I know he's an Illinois kid. I get that. I've come to the point in my life. I'm approaching middle age at 77, 76. Where this is message board stuff. I mean, that this is message board stuff.
We like to go below deck.
It's fine. I mean, we're all guilty of being on them periodically, but my insider sources, for what it's worth, and it's worth a lot. It's going to be more of a, declare for the draft or Wisconsin. I think the likelihood of a transfer as opposed to putting his name in the draft is relatively low. Now we'll see how it goes. I mean, he's got all of the athleticism and he's got good instincts. He's got a lot of areas of his game that are things that NBA franchises salivate over, but he has a lot of polishing to do. I mean, it's no diss on him. He's a really, really solid college player with a tremendous, and that speaks to why he's attractive to NBA teams, with a tremendous upside for growth that he didn't quite hit this season. And I think another year in college, hopefully in Madison, would do him well. I'm not saying that just because I think he'd make Wisconsin better, which of course he would. I think it would help his development, but we'll see what happens. But by all counts, he's a good locker room guy. Gets along with everyone on the team. He's been a huge value add to the program, obviously, for reasons that you can see, and he's been a big part of why they've had a good season. So I wish him all the best, and it seems like a great kid. And I just can't fathom a scenario where he goes to Champaign-Urbana. That would be I'm not going to go there.
Well, I would not be upset if that were.
Yeah, I would not either if I were you. That would be pretty amazing. I'm trying to think we could work a trade out, but I don't know. I'm not sure there's anyone that I would trade him for. So, yeah, I think you guys have your guys, and anyone we like would go pro anyway.
So flip the script. I like that question, JR. Who's guarding Shannon? How does
Wisconsin going to guard Shannon?
How's Wisconsin matching up on the lineup?
Yeah. You're asking JR. I want to hear JR's take on this. This is I'm taking notes on this.
So Wisconsin, let me refresh myself a little bit here. I was just looking at Florida Atlantic lost and kind of was baffled at that there for a second.
Temple, not good for Illinois. That's one of our top.
That's one of the wins. Yeah. And that's one of our quality losses was Illinois. So damn,
not good.
We don't want that to stop us from being a 4.
Q1.
Yeah. All right. So when I'm looking at the guys, I mean, I don't know if Wisconsin really has like a great option here to guard Terrence Shannon Jr. Obviously Chucky's their best defender, but I think Chucky is too undersized and he's going to get, out physicaled by Terrence Shannon Jr. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw him on there at some point, but I mean, maybe a Tyler Wall.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's going to be Wall. Wall is, and by the way, just so you know, Wall was a true game time decision. This wasn't gamesmanship or
Right,
trying
that's
to mess with Vegas. When he went out for pregame, it was a coin flip, and they said he's feeling a little better after the game. I'm not sure how much you want to read into that, but it could just be the adrenaline of a big win. But I would say John Blackwell, and the reason I say
was
that
the other one, yeah,
with reservations is, Nick, you can see it, and JR as well as I am. He was. Like I said earlier, he's playing on 1.5 legs right now. I mean, he looks his offensive game, his effort was 100%. He gives his heart and soul. I love the kid, all Big Ten freshman, but he is not healthy right now, and I just wonder how much he could keep up with Shannon. I think that might be a little bit too much to ask. And Hepburn, some size issues there, but Hepburn's a very aggressive defender, and he's probably our best defender, certainly pound for pound, inch for inch. But it's just going to be a team effort. They're just going to throw different guys at him. Sometimes there's going to be doubles. We'll just see how it goes. But he's going to get his 25. It's just the way it's going to be, and you just got to have him not get his 35. I think that's just how you got to approach the game.
What's the Wall injury? Scary. What did he hurt?
Yeah, it's a knee, leg, lower body. They're calling it, but it was not great before the game, and you saw how that game went. You saw how physical it was. It's not the kind of game typically you come out of going, oh, and now I'm great. But again, maybe it was best foot forward or just trying to gamesmanship. But he did say after the game he was doing okay. So we're very hopeful he'll be able to play tomorrow.
Crazy. I knew there were some rumors about Tyler Wall was possibly hurting, but I didn't know the extent of a game time injury. Or a game time.
Yeah, injury. It was right there. And Greg Gard. I mean, I'll say this about Greg Gard. I mean, like all programs, we don't volunteer a bunch of information. You don't have to. I mean, I think that's they kind of did that with when just any guys hurt on this team, they keep it a little bit. They do the lower body kind of how hockey does it, but he's not going to BS about Wall being a true game time decision yesterday after the game, after a big win they just had, if it wasn't true. So this was real, and he almost didn't play. So he's gotten it out, and I don't know if you just give him a couple Advil or what the standard of care is these days, but I think he's going to be out there tomorrow.
I could tell he wasn't himself. I mean, he missed a couple layups. It seemed like he finally got one to fall, which Earl didn't. Thank God it did. But I think right before that, he missed another wide open layup. So
it's crazy.
He's solid. He doesn't miss those.
He's a grown man. I mean, he's a grown man, and he's a fifth-year player, and he's one of his greatest assets, besides his toughness, is his touch around the basket. It's been kind of his calling card. He's not known as a great outside shooter, although he's improved this year. Not a great free throw shooter, although he's improved this year. He's been solid at both of those. But you can always count on him to do his damage in the lane. And today it just didn't look quite right. But he's had a couple subpar offensive games, which I think probably just gives more evidence of the fact that he's hurting.
All right. Dave's got a super chat for us, but before we get to that, predictions. Let's hear him really fast. Nick, we went to you first earlier, so you got a prediction of who's going to win, and maybe throw a score in there for us.
All right, I have the Illini with the dub locking in their 3 seed, which I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on seeding as well. But I think we're going to get them 88-83.
88-83. All right, Scary, what do you think?
Yeah, I would be disowned by my wife, Cindy, Cindy Alvarez, if I said anything about this. But I'm going to take Wisconsin 77-73. I think if this game gets into the 80s like that, I think it's not great for the Badgers. So it's just going to have to be and 77-73 hardly sounds like a Big Ten grinder game, but for Illinois, that is a grinder game. So I mean, keeping the game that low scoring would benefit, and I think it's going to be close. It's going to be very very tightly contested, and just even like C+ officiating. That's all I need. Just keep us in the game. We don't want to see. We don't want people who play once every 10 games in garbage time having to have meaningful minutes tomorrow. I don't think Illinois fans. I mean, you may want to just get the win and get the higher seed, but as a sportsman, you hate to see that. I just think it'd be more fun if these teams matched up and went mano a mano and better team comes out on top.
If Edie's 1A for the cheat code get into the line, I think Shannon's 1B. Because I mean, every time he drove today, he was getting a foul call. Same with yesterday.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about with the new charge rules. And Bruce Thornton was trying to get charges, and it's like, Bruce, just get out of his way, dude. You're not going to get the charge call.
There was one, can't remember exactly, it was second half, but there was one Shannon drive that I saw today. And it's like, yeah, he's a good player and he's going to get the call, so to speak, but there was no, I mean, you probably know the one I'm talking about. There was nothing. He didn't even graze. The defender didn't even and they showed it 2 or 3 times. Even the commenters didn't say anything. I'm like, it's not a foul, I don't think. But you got the rep as the slasher who can put it in. It's almost like the guys who need the call. I always thought this was a great paradox. The guys in college basketball and pro basketball who least need the help of the officials, these superstars, are the ones who always get it. But let's give Carter Gilmore. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt when he's driving. Let's give him some touch fouls where someone breathes in his vicinity. Not Zach Edey. I don't know. It's fine.
Gilmore, come on, that was a monster 3 today by Gilmore.
It was. Gilmore's he's a great. I was so happy, and it's interesting. I see a lot of the Wisconsin fan commentary, and he took a 3-pointer in the first half. And that you would have thought that he had robbed a baby or something of a baby carriage and kidnapped it and held it for ransom, as angry as the fans were about that. That just can't happen. And then they thought that also probably times 2 until that ball swished through the basket on that second one, the second half. And then they're like, let's go, but it was fun to see because that kid works as hard as anyone. And it's good to see him have a couple points. That's fun. It was a big basket.
Dave is a super chat. Dave, I'm going to get to this super chat first. The other one I will get to, but this one's more prevalent to what we're talking about. So Dave is a Minnesota fan, just so you know, Scary.
I'm so sorry, Dave.
What got into the Badgers? They looked like I don't say that, but if other people want to, it's fine. Going to the tournament, also don't want them to win in Minneapolis. Excuse my passive aggressive Minnesota. Excuse again. So what it got into the Badgers? What was kind of your take on that, Scary? And obviously they've come back from it and done very well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sometimes sometimes a team just clicks on and clicks off, and it's a tale of literally 3 seasons for them this year. It was the first third to half of the season when they were one of the best. They rose up to number 6 in the country, probably a little overrated, but based on performance and strength of schedule, that's where they belonged at that time. And then this second act, which was disastrous, a 3-8 run and some really bad losses. I mean, you lose to now ex-coach Juwan Howard's, Michigan Wolverines. That's a bad loss. That is some bad stuff. They lost, they lost in Indiana. That's a bad loss. And then lost a couple of OT games to some of the better teams. It was a mess. And sometimes you start doubting yourself. You start reading the clippings. You start looking at the message boards. I'm not saying that the Wisconsin players are tuned in any more than any other to that, but they're going on campus and they know the vibe. And it was just, I think, a little bit of a lack of confidence and identity. And they just need a couple games to get them back into it. And it may sound strange, but there's something in that Illinois game. I know they lost, and there was never a moral victory for that. But they looked like a team who wanted to win again in that game. In that game, I said they might be okay if they bring this kind of effort in. And really, since then, they've been fine. I mean, they did lose to, I believe, Purdue one time. That was a close game, and they lost to West Lafayette by 7. So yeah, I think sometimes it's a mental game, and this team is just clicking. And that Maryland game went so well because they came to play and Maryland didn't. And holy crap, we just beat. They were a bottom rung team, but a team with some players and maybe one of the top guys in the entire conference. They got that win. That's like, well, why not? Why can't we beat Northwestern? We beat them when we played them earlier. Then pick Northwestern up. Then it's okay. We hate these guys. Purdue's a bunch of dicks. Let's take it to them. And now we have this kind of a similar thing, maybe even to a greater extent with Illinois, because Illinois has owned Wisconsin the last 3 seasons plus. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think anything changed. It's the same guys, But sometimes, like it is, you just get hot before a tournament and you make a run. It happens. It's happening all over the place in college basketball this week on these in these tournaments. If it carries over. By the way, since this is Minnesota nice, we're gonna, Dave. I like your coach there. I like what he's doing with that team. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't hate the Gophers this year. I kind of like watching what they did. I think they have a good future. I thought losing Jamison Battle was going to really, really hurt them. And it was kind of one of those weird moves where the team just got better, not because he left, because obviously he helped Ohio State, but I think the program's in good hands there. I think you just got to let Wisconsin get their choice of the recruits, like Free Tag, in the Twin Cities, and then Minnesota can go in there and get their recruits. But I think the Gophers will be a pretty solid team going forward.
I've been Elijah Hawkins, supporter, big fanboy for him all season long. So I've definitely enjoyed seeing the Gophers have a good season as well. Well, I'm not saying you enjoyed it, but that you like the way it's going and you like their coach, Gary.
That's fine. I mean, I think it's weird. If Minnesota was a last place Big Ten team every year, that wouldn't be a rivalry anymore. I mean, that's no fun. It's kind of what was happening a bit with football there before Fleck came in, and now they're just losing most of the time to Wisconsin when Fleck's there. Not. So that's good stuff.
You gotta get that jab in, right, Scary?
They extended Fleck. Which is, there wasn't one Wisconsin fan who was mad about that. I can just tell you that. We're A-okay with that.
Oh my. Nick, do you have any thoughts on the Badgers and kind of what happened just from outside perspective? I know you don't follow them as close as Scary, but was there anything you noticed and things they're correcting now?
One observation. I could have gone without the 35-point victory over Maryland, because that turned a Q1 win for the Illini into a Q2 win, and then a Q2 loss into a Q3 loss. So, have a little respect for your Big Ten brethren there.
Hey,
Scary.
us too. It did the same. We
got to play chess. That's not a smart move by guard. You got to get the 2-point victory.
Yeah, we lost the quad. Well, anyway, sorry about that.
But no, they've been playing good. I think you're right though. I think you're right, Scary, with that game. They played good again. I thought they played good against the Illini. We played probably a top 3 game that day. So
yeah, I will say this: there wasn't a team in the country, probably, given that there aren't too. I mean, maybe Connecticut, but there aren't too many dominant teams this year who can allow Illinois to shoot 64% from 3 and expect to beat them. And that was what happened in that game. So there it is. Yeah. That was it. Wisconsin shot like 39%. You flip those numbers, Wisconsin wins by 10. I mean, that's the beauty of college basketball. You got to make the shots.
Yep. Dave's other question here. This isn't exactly Big Ten related, but if we follow college basketball, we might have a good idea here. I know NC State is a bid stealer. Yes, they I think are beating North Carolina right now. Huge game for them. DJ Burns, I love watching that guy play. And then is the same for Oregon. So I have my thoughts on Oregon. I'll just go real quick, and then if you guys have any thoughts, we'll get to those. I think that Oregon has to win the Pac-12 tournament. I know Oregon fans are saying maybe we'll get in, but their net is like still in the 60s. Today, their Ken Palm, I think, is 58 is what I checked earlier today. So they are not Michigan State. They do not get help with the numbers. So, but I think, unfortunately for Oregon, there's stuff going on around the country right now that's not exactly helping them. NC State doing well. The win over Florida Atlantic by Temple today. I mean, just different things like that where teams that shouldn't have gotten to the tournament that are now getting into the tournament. Oregon's kind of in the same boat that Ohio State was, where you were just rooting for zero chaos, which we all know if that's what you're rooting for in March, it's not typically going to happen. But Nick, thoughts on NC State, Oregon, anything like that you got?
Did NC State win tonight?
No, they're playing North Carolina right now.
Yeah, they're winning in 12 minutes left. Yeah,
against UNC. Yeah. I don't think Oregon gets in with those metrics that you listed off.
I mean, they're beating Colorado right now by 3 at the half, there's a minute left. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know enough about their resume. I'm trying to look up some of their big wins, and I'm not seeing them. So they did beat Arizona. I guess they're doing good in the tournament, but
someone in the Pac. Well, yeah, someone besides Arizona and Washington State from the Pac-12 has to, right? They get a third bid, right? So something, I'm not sure if it's going to be, who it's going to be, Utah or whoever won that game yesterday, Oregon. I guess Oregon beat them, but I mean, you got to get three bids for the
Colorado's
Pac-12.
in though, right? I think Colorado's in.
Yeah, that's probably the other one. They're the 3 seed. Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado's a 10 seed right now in Bubble Matrix.
Gotcha.
But again, I mean, I'm so biased, right? Like every year, then the Pac-12 will go in and dominate in the tournament, so they probably should get in over some Big Ten tournaments.
But I will say though, I'm proud of this fact. It's been longer since the Pac-12 has won a national title than the Big Ten, even 97 with Arizona, right? So isn't that the last time?
I think so.
With Miles and the guys, but yeah, that's pretty wild. And then Michigan State, of course, was the Big Ten's last in 2000. But
yeah. If you talk to Maryland fans, Maryland was the last one, but they just weren't in the Big Ten at that time.
Yeah, we don't count them. The Big Ten Network, probably did like a Big Ten Legends, the 2002 Maryland, Gary Williams team, but it wasn't. They did that with one of those Nebraska teams. I think they had Sue as the top Big Ten defensive lineman of the 2000s over J.J. Watt, and we're all kind of like, yeah, but he was in the Big 12, so I think you got to give it to Watt. I don't know. That's just you notice those things if you're a Badger.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but I could definitely be upset about that. What'd you say, Nick?
It's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
JR, you got to be rooting hard right now for UNC and Colorado.
I am. I am, but I've also just resigned to the fact that Ohio State's not making it, and they're probably going to be the NIT.
Do you think there's no chance? No chance?
Yeah, they're not even listed on Bubble Matrix anymore. They're not. Really? They're not on anybody's. Yesterday they were on one, and everybody was saying if they win one more, they'll get on people's brackets, or not brackets, bracketology. But yeah, they got taken off after they lost to Illinois, which Northwestern's still on there. But
is Northwestern?
I don't talk too much about it. I'm going to be labeled as a Northwestern hater, which is fine. I do kind of hate Northwestern just because they're stupid and they stink, and Ohio State should be on over them. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Is Loyola of Chicago sneaking in?
We don't say that word, Scary.
Is Loyola of Chicago? Are they gonna sneak in? No.
It's
okay.
Like
Mr. G.
It's the word not to be spoken is Loyola around.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
But I think they're out. Thankfully.
Okay.
As I say, they're not on Bubble Matrix at all. So, all right. That's all I got, guys. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Thank you everybody for watching. Appreciate that. Scary, why don't you tell people where they can find you at, man?
Yeah, right there. I don't do a lot of that crazy stuff on Instagrams, whatever they're called. The kids are crazy. Kids are called these days, but I am on Twitter or Twitter X, depending on if you like Elon Musk. I don't. He's poorer than me. Not that I hate people who are poorer than me. Trust me, that'd make me very hateful.
Got a long list.
The guy's just a grade A wanker, but whatever. I of course on his website at Barry is the Dawn. So we'd love to have you out there. And hey Nick, good luck tomorrow. And we'll see what happens. Just want to keep the teams healthy. That's kind of where I am.
I mean, that's number one priority. No injuries tomorrow.
A win would be sweet, though. A win would be sweet. If Wisconsin wins the game, I'm gonna fly right back in, and I'm gonna do kind of like Pink does at our concerts. I'm gonna swoop in on the cables and cut the net down. So just be ready for that. I'll give you a high five on the way out.
Nick, where can people find you at, man?
Thanks, JR. Come check us out. The Java Men podcast. We love talking Illini basketball. You could listen to us wherever your podcast. I mentioned earlier, love the pirate theme. Every podcast we talk captain of the ship, who's walking the plank. Pretty polarizing discussions on Brad Underwood. Come check out the last podcast. It was quite the debate, but I think Brad is currently winning over the hearts of the Java Men. So come check us out.
There you go. Get to the Sweet 16, Brad.
That's it. That's everything.
Hey, Jay. Hey, we'll be in the Sweet 16 again. Let's play again. Hey, JR, I did forget one thing. My steel-clad brain. I do have a podcast on YouTube and also Spotify called I hadn't really come up with this one. I had a contest, the Scary Alvarez podcast. It's a lot of fun. A lot, not too many Illini on there, too many Buckeyes, but we do have a lot of Badgers on there and ex-Badgers and things like that. So love to see you out at the podcast. Thanks for having me on, though, Jared. That's fun.
Yeah. Thanks, JR.
Yeah.
You're crushing.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, Scary, if you ever need a Buckeye on there, if nothing else, just to argue with a little bit, I'm glad to join. So I don't know if any of your fans want to hear from a Buckeye, but
love to have you, especially if you have some of the playbook.
Yeah. Not yet. I'm not Tony Alford leaving for the arch rival, bringing the playbook with me. So
okay, well, 13. Maybe we'll see. Maybe if we get Vrabel and Fickle, maybe they can work something. But we got a good portion of their starting defensive line from 1992 in there. So we'll see if we can parlay that into something.
Yeah, go talk to Michigan if you want to talk about stealing signs and stealing things like that. They're masters over there.
Don't get me started with their tainted title.
Before I sign off, Juwan Howard 0-9 career against Brad Underwood in the Illini.
He's bad.
Yeah, as we say, Juwan slaps. We in Madison we say Juwan slaps. So
yeah,
good luck to him in his comeback.
We didn't mention that at all.
I just got that. That took me a while, Scary, but I just got that.
Yeah, that was the best connection he's had in a long time. So good for him. Hopefully, Jimmy King can hire him to come on and as podcast or something. Well, it'll be something he can do.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to these guys for coming on. Appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody.